He built a simple website and now he's making 40K per month from one website.
That makes 40K a month.
This is Angus Chang. He lives in Hong Kong and he built the simplest website I've ever seen.
I built a website that literally does one thing.
And what's even crazier is that he operates this business entirely as a solopreneur. Solo founder, zero employees, 100% bootstrapped.
I bootstrapped this entire business by myself.
I brought Angus onto the channel and he broke down how he found a silly idea that thousands of people also happen to need, why spending money on ads actually hurt his business, and why having a big strategy is for losers. All right, let's dive in. I'm Pat Walls.
I'm excited.
This is Starter Story.
Starter Story. Thank you very much. Starter Story.
All right, welcome Angus to the channel. Thank you for coming on. Tell me about who you are, what you built, and what's your story.
My name is Angus Chang. I built a business that does just one thing. I launched it in 2021, and today it makes $40,000 a month, and I run it entirely by myself.
All right, before we get into the numbers of this amazing business that you built, I want to hear, how did you come up with the idea for Bank Statement Converter?
I had just quit my job, and I knew I was going to build some sort of product. I actually had planned to build something else, but on the side, I was thinking, you know, I've got X amount of money in the bank. I want to know how long I can continue living the way I'm living. And to do that, I wanted multiple years of bank data. I wanted it all in a nice Excel spreadsheet so I could kind of figure out, okay, it looks like I'm spending this much a month. And that was a lot harder than I thought it would be because my bank only provided PDF bank statements. So I wrote some code to get the transaction data out of the bank statements. And that was also really hard. So I figured it must be a real problem.
Okay, you found the idea. Lots of people have ideas all the time. How did you know that this could be a business?
Often I like to just make an MVP as quickly as possible, get it into production, and then get it in front of real users. And that's kind of what I did. So me and a friend worked on it for about a week. We got a domain, we launched it, and then we bought Google Ads to get people to start clicking into the domain. And immediately people started uploading bank statements, which kind of validated the problem, you know.
I think a lot of people watching this will be looking for, how do I find a simple idea? How do I find this kind of app that can do one thing? I can build it myself. And
that's truly amazing. He found the problem and then he solved it because the problem was the problem that he had, and figured most people will most likely have similar problems, which I do, by the way. I was literally looking for a similar app.
And it can become a business. Do you have any sort of framework or strategy around finding these ideas?
I think a good way is if you encounter the problem yourself or a pain point yourself. Another way is your colleagues or friends complain about stuff at work. But sometimes I just get ideas and I just think of the smallest possible way to implement that idea, you know, get it out there and see if people will use it. You can try to validate before launching, but if it takes you like 1 or 2 weeks to make an MVP, it's not that much of a risk anyway. So you might as well just build it.
Okay, so we talked about finding the idea, but I want to hear more about how you actually built this thing. How did you go from idea to real live website?
When I proved this out, I had a local version that would work for my own bank. I wrote this in Kotlin. It was basically a console application. And then I generalized it a bit so that it would work with other bank statements. Like, obviously, I don't know if it works for every bank statement, but I tried it out with some of my other banks and some of my friends' banks. And then I convinced a friend to help me build the UI for this. And he did this in Next.js. And then we got the two things deployed. I got the front end on Netlify. I deployed the back end to EC2 on AWS. And then that's kind of how we did it.
Cool. You probably built a bunch of other apps and you learned a lot in the process of what works and what doesn't. What's your kind of framework for building? What's the Angus method?
It's kind of like a lean startup approach. You know, you make an MVP, launch it as quickly as possible. Try get it in front of your target audience, whoever they are. Don't show it to your friends and family. You know, they will just lie to you and they're probably not going to buy your product anyway. And then you build your features based on real user feedback. So maybe somebody emails you, or maybe like analytics. So if you notice that people are dropping off on this page, maybe you need to do something there. If people are not using a certain feature, maybe don't continue working on it.
All right, well, let's get into some of the numbers of this. Can you give me a timeline of the growth of Bank Statement Converter?
So 2021, we launched Bank Statement Converter. 2022, we hit 6,000 USD MRR. 2023, 14,000. 2024, 27,000. And today it's at 40,000 USD MRR. Wow. Total number of users, 75,000. Paying customers, about 1,000. And traffic per month, about 40,000.
All right, so everyone watching this right now is probably wondering, okay, it's cool how you built it, but how did you actually market it? How did you get customers? Was there a specific strategy that made this thing go up?
At first, I bought Google search ads. These were good for getting the initial users, but I was never able to run an ad campaign profitably. So I would spend maybe $1,000 on ads and bring in about $300 in sales. I spent a lot of time trying to optimize these ads, trying to get them more profitable, but never really worked out. I tried blogging and building in public. That gets quite a lot of attention. However, I don't think I get many users from doing that because my users don't seem to be using Twitter or reading my blog. I also tried sending out cold emails, and in 3 months of doing that, I got one sale. And I also also annoyed a lot of people. I got a lot of angry messages back. People don't really like cold emails. After about 6 months of running Google search ads, I decided, you know, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I might not even do this app anymore. I cut the ads and I thought maybe go back to work. And interestingly, I stopped paying for ads. So I knew everyone who was clicking on the website was an organic user. And I noticed I started getting new users. I'd get like 2 or 3 new signups a day. From that point on, I kind of focused on improving the products. When customers complained about things, I would fix them. And I just basically focused on doing what the customers wanted.
All right, real quick, before we get into how Angus built this $30,000 banking with low card ordering, with you expense fast, and next down how to click video. All right, so you got this website making a bunch of money. It's a great business. You have a team working on this?
No, it's just me. I started this business with a friend, but he left after a few weeks. I do all the development, customer support, sales, and marketing.
I bet you he
so you went
regrets it
from
now.
working a 9-to-5 job to being a solopreneur, running your own business. What was that transition like?
Working for a company, you kind of spend a lot of time like playing, you know, refactoring code, trying out databases you think are cool. But when you work for yourself, you quickly realize these things don't make any money and potentially are a waste of time. So your focus is really different. You go from being like a developer who cares about writing nice code to a developer who cares about business features and more business aligned, I suppose.
Yeah. In your experience becoming a solopreneur, what are some of the pros and cons of the solopreneur lifestyle?
When I first started, it was a big change. Most of my friends I knew, most of the people I hung out with were people from work. You know, you go out for drinks.
That's we could just answer that. The cons is you're by yourself. If anything breaks, you have to fix it. You have to reply absolutely everything. But it also gives you freedom because you don't have to worry about anybody else. Like, you know, oh, I want a pay rise. I want this. Oh, they feel like the company's now making way more and I should be paid way. None of that headache. It's just all you. And if you're happy with that, by all means, you know, if you're introverted as well and you love keeping yourself to yourself, why not? It makes complete sense. But let's quickly get some of his background.
Now you have this great business. You're a solopreneur. What were you doing before? Were you a developer? What was your kind of journey to starting your own business?
I've always been a developer. In 2010, I worked for an EPS machine company. 2010 to 2014, I worked for myself developing indie games for the Xbox Live Indie Game Store. I also developed a virtual girlfriend app for Android and iOS. It's called Girlfriend Plus. 2017 to 2019, I worked in an investment bank in Hong Kong. 2020, I worked at a crypto company. We're building a crypto exchange. 2021, I launched Bank Statement Converter.
Okay, let's talk about tech stack. I know you're a developer. Can you share with me the entire stack of how you built this app?
The core engine is written in Kotlin. It's like a JVM language. Next.js is what the front end is written in. I use Brevo for transactional emails. I use AWS EC2 instances to host the back end. Netlify to host the front end. Stripe for payment processing. And that's about it. A lot of profit. It's like $39 out of $40,000 is profit. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so you built this awesome business. You've been working on it for a number of years. What have you learned in the process that surprised you?
In the first 2 years, I was working extremely hard on the business and making basically no money. You know, I spent a lot of hours developing the app. I'd reply to customer emails as soon as possible. If a customer email came in at 3 a.m., I would deal with it right away. You know, at that time, every extra customer made a big impact on MRR. And what I realized was that those first 2 years of hard work, you don't get paid much, but you kind of get the money for that hard work in like years 4 and onwards.
The last question that I want to ask is, well, we ask everyone who comes on to Starter Story. If you could stand on Angus's shoulder when you quit your job, you're building that app, it was making a few dollars in revenue, what advice would you give him?
SaaS is an excellent business model. Make sure you save enough money to survive multiple years with no income. If you only have enough money for a few months of runway, you're probably not going to make it. You know, I mean, it took me 2 or 3 years before I could pay rent with the revenue I was getting in. Ignore social media. That's, you know, a lot of people think they need to build a following on social media before building a business. I think it's a waste of time. Building a following on social media is hard work. And even if you have it, your business might still not be very good. So just focus on the business. Focus on the product, get some real users, improve the product, and it should be easy to get more users if your product solves their problem. Don't make a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter page for your business. I see a lot of people do this, and I think it's a waste of time as well.
That was awesome. Thank you, Angus, for coming on. I love the business that you built. It's going to keep growing. It's awesome. Thanks for sharing everything with the audience, and hope to see you back on soon. Angus is proof that you can build simple apps that actually make money. He found a tiny problem, built a solution for himself, and then turned it into a life-changing.
Let's see the comment quickly. He did. That's a good comment. This is such a great, organic story. Someone who believes in their product, kept plugging away at the app and then around things improved. So basically, it's a perfect example of what true hard work could produce. And I believe every single person watching, you included on this channel, you can do something like this. You just need to find, what am I struggling with? What am I suffering with? How can I solve it for myself? And obviously you've already solved it for other people. All right. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. What business are you working on? Where are you watching from? While should they like the video? And you, my friend, I'll catch you on the next one. God